Newton Render is now even easier to use than it was before, because we can take different files from different 3D packages that use different render engines and put them all in the to be rendered folder, and they will be sorted out and rendered with the right render engine or render program, and then the finished renders will be seen in the rendered folder. We can even now take a file and zip it up with its textures, like was done here, and stick it in the rendered folder, and it will be unzipped down at Newton Render and rendered. This can save a lot of space, because if we look at this file size here, it's 255 kilobytes. Zipped up, the Cinema 4D file is 90 kilobytes. That's a reduction of almost half, so zipping it up in either a zip or a RAR file can save a lot of upload bandwidth if bandwidth is a problem for you. To get Newton Render this easy to use, we do need to set up the Cubby file system first. To do that, the first thing we should do is go to cubby.com, click Login, and then click on Sign Up. After we make our account, we should go to newtonrender.com, click on Register, and enter that same cubby.com email we used for Cubby right here. This email will be used to have the folders on Newton Render shared with your cubby.com account. This email address here is the email address we will use to contact you. This PayPal field right here is how we will know down at Newton Render that a payment came from you and to credit your Newton Render account with those hours. After we register, we should see an email come in pretty soon saying that 2 Cubby folders were shared with us. After we log into our Cubby account, we should see a little message like this that says a to be rendered folder and a rendered folder were shared with us. We should accept this, and then after we accept the folders and install the desktop Cubby app that we can download directly from cubby.com, we can double click on the little icon and this should pop up. This is where we see all the different Cubby folders. To sync the Cubby folder with a folder on the hard drive, we can click here on Sync. Right now I already have it synced with a folder on my hard drive, so I'll unsync it so I can show the syncing process. Click on, and we can add a new folder which will automatically make a folder anywhere we want on this location with this name. But since I already have the folder made, because it was already synced with that folder, I'll say merge with existing folder, browse to the folder I want, and I'll press OK and merge. Now it's syncing up the folder with that folder that I picked on my hard drive. This is really cool because we can then use any folder on our hard drive as the folder to be synced with our Cubby folder, and any files we put in this folder will then be sent to Cubby and Newton Render, and it'll all work out good. And then when we go to the folder on our hard drive, it should look like this, have a little Cubby box next to it, meaning that it is synced with Cubby, and we can simply take a file and drop it into the Cubby folder to be rendered and see our final finished render show up in the rendered folder. After we take our files and put them in the to be rendered folder, we'll see a little cycling sign that says the files are now being uploaded. The upload speed depends upon how fast your internet connection is on your side for uploads. After the files are done uploading, we can take a look at the rendered folder and see a little text file appear a few minutes later. The text file should say either rendering, if the file started rendering right away, or we could have something that says second, third, fourth in queue, which tells us about where we are in the Newton Render queue. Most likely, if we're in the queue behind someone else and we want it to start faster, we can buy high priority hours and then our project will start right away, unless the text that we get says 2 behind high priority. This means that we are second in the queue behind a high priority job, and buying high priority hours will not make our render start right away. By double clicking on the little text file, we should also get a little explanation of what it means. Because Newton Render now has high priority hours and low priority hours, we have gotten rid of reservations altogether, because we figure if you do want your project rendered quicker, you will buy high priority hours and not wait in the queue. Some other things to note is down at the Newton Render website, if we click on Frequently Asked Questions, we have all the most up-to-date information about Newton Render right here. One in particular that's important is how long do I have to save my renders? And there's a bunch of other really important information like how fast the farm currently is. So we'll update it right here when we do upgrade the speed of the farm in the future. If we also click on the cost tab here and scroll down to the bottom, we have a cost estimation calculator that can be used to kind of estimate how much a render will cost on Newton Render and compare that to competitors. On average right now, you should save about 42% over the competitors, even with the full rate price. I do also highly recommend clicking on the Videos tab to see the video for the 3D rendering package you are using with Newton Render. Just as an example here, if we're using TheaRender, in the pack.thea file there can be several different cameras. So to only have to upload one file instead of 10 different files for rendering 10 different cameras, we can make a little text file like this and stick it with the pack.thea file. So we can give instructions when it goes to the Newton Render farm that camera 1 should be rendered with these settings, camera 2 should be rendered with these settings, and so on. In this case, so we only have to upload it one time instead of 3 to get the 3 cameras rendered with the 3 different settings we want rendered with the 3 different cameras. To keep track of how much space is being used on Cubby, open up the Cubby program and take a look at the little bar down here. This little bar tells us how much space of the cloud storage is currently taken up by other files. If we look at the little archive box here, that shows us how much space is taken up by files that are archived on the online Cubby cloud. These are files that we've already deleted, but Cubby keeps them around in case we want to bring them back, and they call this archives. We can go online to cubby.com, log in, and delete the archives there. They also have instructions on the website on how to delete the archives. The archives are also supposed to automatically delete when we need the extra space for uploading new files. The other option we have to add more space is to get a pro account on Cubby, which will give us 100 gigabytes plus whatever free storage we had, which should be between 5 and 25 gigabytes. The third option we have is to give an email to and ask them if they can switch our folders to a direct link, which means this will be grayed out then, meaning it's a direct link, and this little thing will say off, meaning it's off the cloud. What a direct link means is that all files will be directly transferred from the computer at Newton Render to whatever computers have the Cubby program installed and are synced up with a file on the computer. What this also means is none of the online cloud Cubby storage will be used, and it will also mean that the size of the files that we can store is pretty much unlimited, because it's only limited by the size of the hard drives at Newton Render, which is more than big enough for any file we want to upload or any renders that we finish. So I hope you enjoy using Newton Render. Thank you and happy rendering.